Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode here on Eat Sleep Reef, and this week we're going to be featuring another fellow Instagrammer's reef tank called Northwest Nano on Instagram. I think you guys are going to find very interesting how I actually stumbled across this tank and what really drew my attention. And believe it or not, I think it's going to surprise you, but I'm going to save it to the very end. Jumping right in, this is a 24-gallon WaterBox aquarium that was actually started back in April of 2018. Originally, when this tank did start, it wasn't as SPS dominant as you guys are witnessing now. It recently, about 10 months ago, became SPS dominant. And believe it or not, each and every coral in here, as far as SPS, started as a 1-inch frag. So it really just goes to show, if you keep up with your maintenance, keep up with your stability, feeding regimen, lighting, flow, everything to keep the corals happy, you can get a good amount of growth in less than a year. As we all know, a big part to a successful reef tank is certainly equipment. For skimmer, this tank is running a Reef Octopus 110 SS. Return pump is a Reef Octopus Varios 2. I've actually had very good experience with these return pumps. It's one I ran in the 50. Very quiet, very reliable. I really had no complaints, so it's not to my surprise that he's running both the skimmer and the return pump, both from Reef Octopus. One thing that was very interesting to see here is as far as what type of media he runs as far as filtration is concerned. One thing he did tell me is he uses a filter floss in his return stock area with 2 teaspoons of carbon in a media bag. And this bag sits in the return chamber. Other than that, he runs no other reactors in this tank. When it comes to lighting, he has the workhorse, what we've all known to be a very good light, which is the Radion G5 XR30 Blue Edition. This is the newest light the Radion does make. He runs them for a total of 12 hours, and max intensity is about 55% for 7 hours. Power heads, as you probably already noticed, are 2 MP10 quiet drives, which run opposite of one another, also known as anti-sync, for a total of 12 hours of reef crest at 40% and 12 hours constant mode at 25%. For doser, he is using the Kimura X1, which I'm not surprised, as this has become a very popular doser for its price, its size, but more importantly, its Wi-Fi capabilities. As far as controller, he is using the Neptune Apex EL. Next on the list, and not least, is a very important one, which is feeding. In order for him to maintain his nutrients, since he only has 4 fish, he feeds 4 to 6 drops of Reef Nutrition, ROE, and Mysis 3 times a day. When it comes to aminos, he recently started the Red Sea AB+. I believe this is the newest formula they do have. He recently started this 2 months ago, which he adds about 8 milliliters once a week. For coral food, once a week he broadcasts a combination of Reefroids and Bena pellets. He also adds 20 drops of Reef Nutrition Phytofeast once a week for his clam. And when it comes to replenishing his major elements, he does use Tropic Marin All for Reefs daily, split over 4 doses. This has actually been a product that I've recently had my eye on, and I've seen a lot of people, especially at a lot of nice tanks like this, using this, and as you can see, with very much success. And one of the last things, and of course not the least important, is going to be maintenance. This is one that will kind of set your tank apart from the rest. When it comes to water change, he does about 5 gallons every 3 weeks, typically on Sundays, using only the best Tropic Marin Pro. As you guys know, that's also the salt I use. During the week, he'll usually clean the glass about 1 to 2 times a week. He's just like me. He hates seeing algae on the glass. He does change out the carbon about once a month, changes the filter floss once a week. He typically doesn't clean the sandbed, as he mentioned he has about a dozen Osiris snails doing all of the heavy work for him. When it comes to parameters, his salinity, he runs at 1.026. pH, and this is one that I'm kind of not surprised about. He runs it during the night. It's about 7.9 and 8.4 during the day. I don't know if you guys remember that a few videos back I said that there always seems to be some similarities with people with very successful SPS tanks and running a high pH. Again, thus the main reason I want to run a calc stirrer on my new setup. NO3 is run at about 1 ppm. PO4 is about 0.04. Alkalinity runs at about a 7.3. Calcium 460. Magnesium 1450. And I don't know if you guys recall, but at the beginning of the video, I mentioned to you kind of what drew me to this tank. And believe it or not, after everything I've shared with you, I think a lot of you are going to be very surprised. Now, before you do jump to conclusions, at the end, I'm going to have a little bit of an explanation. So I really hope that what I say, as soon as you hear it, you kind of don't stop watching the video and you watch to the very end so you can have a better takeaway and maybe something you can apply in your reef tank. So I want to say this was about 2 weeks back at Northwest Nano. I was scrolling through my Instagram and I stumbled across a picture that caught my attention very quickly. More importantly, it was not really surprising, but in the background you saw this amazing tank that you're viewing right now in front of you. And if you guys are looking at this picture, I think you can probably recognize what drew me to this tank so quickly, right? Check out that reading of alkalinity. You guys are reading it right, 5.3. Now, before you guys go, stop this video, go to your reef tank and lower your alkalinity to 5.3. I'm not trying to say that running your alkalinity at 5.3 is something you want to do long term, okay? I really think the biggest takeaway and something we can all learn from Northwest Nano and also his beautiful tank is that corals are very, very adaptable, as you're seeing here. Now, he did mention to me that this 5.3 is not something he commonly runs. He tries to run it around 7, like I mentioned earlier. But this was something that I believe he was out of town or just wasn't at home with the tank. And the alkalinity over time, obviously, wasn't overnight, dropped to as low as 5.3. Now, this is something I've shared with you guys time and time and time again. And I try to emphasize as much as I can to not be a number chaser. Don't be that reefer that chases a number, and understand, and hopefully you can look at this and learn that your corals, as long as it happens slowly and over time, they can adapt to very different environments in the reef tank. Alkalinity being one of those things, we don't want it to fluctuate too much, but this currently shows you that corals are able to run as low as 5.3. Obviously, as long as it happens slowly. I probably wouldn't recommend leaving it here, but I'd say the biggest takeaway, at least for me, is how adaptable corals are. And when you're stressing out because your alkalinity isn't within a certain range, don't freak out. Take it nice and slow. Your corals will adapt. Everything will be super happy as long as you go easy with them and give them time to change. So guys, I think I'm going to end this video here. Again, one of the biggest takeaways I found from watching Northwest Nano's tank is just how beautiful you can maintain a small tank. A lot of us try to shoot or try to look at bigger tanks that are SPS Dominate, but seeing this nice 24-gallon WaterBox SPS Dominate with the growth you're seeing, considering most of these started from 1-inch frags about 10 months ago, I'd be pretty happy. And again, also knowing that your corals can adapt to various different alkalinities. Again, I'm not trying to recommend you to run your alkalinity at 5.3 for a long period of time, but hey, look, if it drops over time as low as 6, even 5.3, you can see here that it's not the end of the world. Being careful if your alkalinity ever does drop really low, the last thing you want to do is go and spike up the numbers, get them back up to where you normally had them. The best thing to do in this scenario is to increase the alkalinity over 2 to 3 weeks time to give the corals enough time to adjust. So guys, I'm going to leave this video here. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I want to give a special thanks to Northwest Nano for sharing his beautiful tank here with all of us on Eat Sleep Reef. And guys, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please leave them down in the comment box below. If you guys are on Instagram and you aren't following Northwest Nano, I think now would be a good time to do so. I'll be sure to have a link down in the description to his page. So again, guys, thank you very much for joining in. I thank each and every one of you very much for watching. As always, happy reefing.